I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Barnett. I'm SVP of Sales for Pegasus Technology Solutions. And we apologize for the link issue, but looks like everybody found the link and everybody's online now. So thanks. On behalf of Pegasus and our partner OpSWAT, I'd like to welcome you all to the webinar. Today, we're discussing cybersecurity infrastructure and implementing zero trust access to work from home for work from home programs. That's a mouthful. So about Pegasus, we're a technology solutions provider. And our mission, we value people and emphasize relationships while solving business challenges through technology. And our vision is enterprise IT experiences for every company. Now what that means is our team has many years of IT experience within the Fortune 500, and we leverage that experience to enable any company we do business with. And it works. We're growing very fast. As a company, we've garnered many awards. And most recently, we were recognized in the Security 100 category for CRN's top 500 MSPs in America. We know security and what organizations need to do to protect themselves. That's why we have best of breed security companies that we work with, like our partner on the call today, OpSWAT. With the COVID-19 pandemic, companies are being challenged more than ever with work from home programs, increasing attack surfaces, and how to effectively secure all that. With OpSWAT, their secure access solutions help you to do just that. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Laura Ellis with OpSWAT, who's VP of Sales for Secure Access. Laura?
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And welcome everyone to this joint webinar, as Steve said, on providing zero trust secure access for work from home. I'm betting most of us on the call today are working from our homes. I know we as the panelists certainly are, and you probably are as well. Unfortunately, the coronavirus pandemic is impacting all of us, both personally and professionally, as we approach almost 1.4 million cases around the globe. It's scary. We hope you are all safe, and we also hope that we can assist you with keeping your business safe and productive. Before we get started, I do want to go over just a few logistics. This webinar is scheduled for 50 minutes to allow some time for a Q&A at the end. We do want this webinar to be interactive, however, and we encourage your participation. We have found that using the Q&A capability, hopefully you see that on the webinar tabs, so that please ask questions as you go throughout the session. We do have one of our senior SEs, Matt Boxa, on the call to monitor those questions, so we'll be trying to answer them as they come along, and we'd really like to see you use this vehicle. Please note also that a recording of this webcast will be made and a copy of the PowerPoint slides, so that you'll have both the recording and the PowerPoint mailed to you once we're all done. And of course, we're also happy to schedule a follow-up session for any of you that are interested in hearing more. Just reach out to Pegasus to get that set up. So let's start with the introductions. As Steve said, I'm VP of Sales for Secure Access. I have been in the world of IT, networking, and security for well over 20 years. And now let me pass it to Amir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amir. I'm the business director of Meta Access, one of the products we're going to introduce today. I'm also over 25 years in the business-to-business sales and product management, and in OpSWAT almost a year now. Russ?
And this is Russ Miller, VP of Products with OpSWAT, and I've been doing creating software solutions, especially networking and IT related, for well over 20 years myself also. And I'll be demoing the software-defined perimeter and giving you a little background on it. And Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Russ. My name is Michael Wheeler, and I am an SE with OpSWAT, and I will be doing the other demo portion of this webinar. So, Laura, back to you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone. So here are our discussion topics for the day. First of all, to prepare to work from home. Although at this point, my feeling is that probably most of you already are working from home, at least in some way, and OpSWAT certainly is. And we do want you to know that we are using the technologies that we discussed today. And of course, we're fully and securely operational. We'll discuss secure remote device access to ensure that the endpoint itself is secure, and secure remote network access to ensure you control who gets on your network. And then, as you heard from Michael and Russ, you'll get to see a live demo of the solutions, and then we'll get into details such as licensing and support. And last, we will open up for further Q&A. So in today's environment, work from home is indeed a critical reality, and it's a challenge. There is much to consider and review. You need to ensure that your employees do have the right equipment and the resources and the right bandwidth to be successful, to have tools in place to ensure that their collaboration with their peers continues, things such as chat and the webinar tools that we're using today. And the human aspect of all of this is important to consider as well. Last, however, and our focus for the rest of the time today, is ensuring that you are able to have a secure work from home environment. And this is incredibly difficult for us. We're working at home and dealing with the pandemic of the coronavirus, and yet we also need to worry about computer viruses and other security breaches as well. I'd like to start use with a Q&A, if you could, by sharing with all of us. It's interesting for us all to see where you are on this work from home journey. Do you have it in place? Is security a challenge for you? Or what are you finding is the biggest challenge in working from home? It would just be interesting to see where we all stand as we're going through this, and we can learn collectively from each other. I'm sure you have already realized that hackers are very aware of this necessity to work from home, and that it's an opportunity for them to make and it is making an increase in cyber attacks. The Department of Homeland Security has issued an alert that is specific to work from home attacks and the need to be able to increase your security for this environment. So these links are live, and when you get this PowerPoint sent to you after our session today, I'd encourage you to read both of them. The Homeland Security one does give you what some specific vulnerabilities are working from home and how you might mitigate those. And then the CSO Online article is also a good read, and it highlights how some of these attacks are taking shape. There are many breaches in the past 2 months. Things that, one couple of examples that I've seen are things such as sending out a link that looks like the Johns Hopkins daily coronavirus report, which is one that I use, or anything that mentions coronavirus, such as health tips, etc. So that will be one way, and there's many others as well. So what does make work from home so much more vulnerable to these type of attacks? And there are many reasons, with some examples listed here. We may be opening up applications for remote access that we haven't had to do before, that we've normally kept internal in the intranet. We're reliant upon VPNs, which, while designed to provide more security, are exposed on the network, and they're vulnerable to attacks as well. And we often don't have visibility to everything that is accessing our network or our cloud applications. In fact, honestly, I know very few organizations that can say they truly have this type of visibility. So we're at risk. We know this, we're aware, and we do need a new approach. So let's discuss how OPSWAT has approaches which can help. We will be sharing with you a couple of solutions that address these issues in a manner that can be implemented very quickly, which is important in these days. So Meta Access is a solution which ensures that you have a trusted endpoint for cloud access, and Safe Connect Software Defined Perimeter, or SDP, provides a zero trust, remote, and secure cloud access. So with these two solutions combined, you will have endpoint security checked before connecting to the network, and Wi-Fi connection, which will be encrypted, with safety with a secure virtual desktop or VDI, and the ability to limit the application exposure to just those users who need access to those specific applications by user and by role, as well as compliance. It's giving you that visibility on what's connecting and ensuring that any user does meet your organization's policy and regulations. And so now I will turn it over to Amir to dive into more details on Meta Access.
Thank you, Laura. So now let's see actually how it works. We have a scenario of working from home. We'll have a desktop or a laptop or BYOD device that wants to connect to either cloud applications. So we will try to connect to a cloud application. First thing we will do is connect to an IDP that will identify that we are who we claim we are. In this case, Meta Access will basically get a call from the IDP to check if the device that is trying to connect is really compliant. Now, for that, we have a client installed on the endpoint. We are compliant with Windows, with Mac OS, with iOS, with Android, and with Linux. So this client will check the posture, the compliance of the endpoint according to the policy. And once this device is trying to access a cloud solution or a remote solution, then Meta Access will get the posture of this device. If it's okay, it will let it in. If not, it will block it. This is the framework. This is the concept. Next slide, please, Laura. So what do we check, basically? First of all, we check compliance. Laura, can you hear me okay? I hear some
Yes.
echo.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So first of all, we ensure compliance to the policy of the organization. Now we have to consider the devices we're talking about are considered unmanaged. That means they're out of the network, they're in less control or no control at all of the organization. But we do want to enforce some kind of compliance and policy. So we can check if there is an antivirus working, if the patches are okay. We can check a lot of things, and Michael Wheeler will show some of it. So compliance is one thing. The next thing we will check is security. That means you probably will have an antivirus or anti-malware on your device, but we can add to it. Because with our technology called Meta Defender that is connected to Meta Access, we can scan for malware with several engines. 7 engines will scan your endpoint complementary to the antivirus or anti-malware agent you have there. We are very, very updated. We work with many engines, and this adds value, of course. We can create reports, and we can also block the USB and portable media access to your desktop, laptop, whatever. This is a common problem at home. Next one. The other thing we will check is vulnerabilities. We are connected to the database of cv.org, Common Vulnerabilities and Exposure Database of the National Institute of Standards of the US. It includes the most updated vulnerabilities, and we scan for them. We also scan to vulnerabilities that we know from over 100 million endpoints that are using the core technology of Meta Access, which is called Oasis. So we have our own scoring as well. And of course, we can connect to SAML, which is the XML of single sign-on technology. So we can connect with Okta, Ping, and other tools that are used for identity. We can connect for Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and of course with NAC solution to block ports. So we provide comprehensive compliance and security posture check on this device that is unmanaged. Next slide, please. One very common integration we have is with VMware. VMware has a secured environment called Horizon combined with UAG, Unified Access Gateway. So with this environment, basically a user can get a secure environment to work from remote, from home in this case. So we install an agent on the endpoint at home. It can be a persistent agent or on-demand agent. And this is doing the compliance check all the time. Once you want to enter the secured environment of Horizon, you first of all access UAG. You ask for access. UAG will check with Meta Access what is the compliance posture of this device. And if it's okay, we'll allow the user to get into Horizon Client. Next slide, please. So this is a use case from last month, in March, earlier in March. We got a call from a bank in Luxembourg. They wanted to work from home for 500 users. They have the same infrastructure, VMware UAG plus Horizon Client. And the implementation was very simple and quick. They got a lead and an access to Meta Access for 50 users for free. Everyone can do that right now in our website. And then they looked into the documentation. They asked for help to integrate with VMware. We provided them the documentation, which is very simple. And they did the implementation and integration by themselves. All in all, from a lead, testing, integration, purchasing the license, and going live took them just 1 week. Very, very simple. Next, please. The other way to integrate with Meta Access is through SAML. This is, again, the XML of single sign-on technology. In this case, when the user from home or from remote would like to access some kind of service provider or application, it can be in the cloud like Salesforce or Office 365, or remotely in the organization, your SAP or whatever. Then it will access an IDP. The identity provider like Okta or Ping or others will check with Meta Access what is the compliance posture of the endpoint. If it's okay, it will let it into the service provider. If not, it will block it. And if it's blocked, next slide, please, you will get this page, a web page saying, hey, your device is at risk. And you will see exactly what is the problem. In this case, the anti-malware product is not configured correctly. It's Windows Defender. There is a simple explanation for everyone, why does it matter and how to fix it. The idea is to let the user fix it as much as he can by himself and try again. Only if he cannot do that, he can call IT. Next slide, please. And this is another use case of a large global international bank. They're using Meta Access for a long time with over 22,000 endpoints. And recently, last months, they went to 50% work from home. And they asked basically to extend from 22,000 to 50,000 users. And that was done, of course, very easily by click. This is a cloud solution. So now I would like to give the floor to Michael Wheeler that will do a demo of these solutions. Michael, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Amir. So we're going to take a look at a couple of different scenarios in this demo, and these will be aligned with what the user and the administrator see in the use cases that Amir lined out just a minute ago. So the first one is going to be, we're pretending that I am a work from home user at home, and I have my own laptop, and I need to access corporate resources that are behind a VMware Horizon View infrastructure. So as the employee, I'm going to launch my VMware client just like I normally would, and I'm going to select my unified access gateway and provide my credentials, absolutely just like normal. Now, at this point, I see that I have a virtual desktop pool available to me, and there may be lots of different icons here for different applications and things like that. But to get to my virtual desktop, I'm going to double click on this, and instead of being thrown into my desktop where I can do my work, I'm presented with a message that says I do not comply with the service access policy. So this is the VMware Horizon client telling me as the user, I don't comply with the policy. And we can optionally pop up the screen that looks like this, which is what Amir was showing just a minute ago. And it has those three key pieces of information. So what went wrong, why does it matter, and how do I fix it? And in this case, I have the policy configured that if you do not have a minimum amount of hard drive space, then you're not allowed in. So we can see that this is what went wrong. I don't have enough storage space. Why does it matter? Applications may not function properly, and how do I fix it is to free up some space. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to log out of the VMware client, and let's take a look at the actual policy in the management console. And this is what the administrator would see to configure the different policy checks. Now, as you can see here, my hard drive space, if it's less than 99%, that's a critical problem. So that's a pretty unrealistic check, but it's just here for purposes of the demo. Let's make sure that the user has at least 10% hard drive space, and we can save the modification to that policy, and then we will have our user try to authenticate again. So I'm back in the VMware client. I'm going to select my Unified Access Gateway and again provide my authentication credentials. And as sometimes happens, we type them incorrectly. And again, so I have my VMware virtual desktop pool that's available to me. And if I double click on it this time, I have passed the policy check where I have more than 10% of free disk space. And we will see that I'm being logged into my virtual desktop within the organization. And I would have access to all of my applications and be able to work just like I was on premise. So we can see there what the integration looks like with the OpSWAT and the VMware infrastructure. Now for this other demo, we're going to take a look at what it looks like to try to log into a web-based application that is protected also by OpSWAT and Meta Access. And this can actually be the same policy that controls access to the VMware infrastructure, same policy, same client, same everything. It just happens to be used for logging into a single sign-on provider. And in this case, we're going to try to log into Salesforce via Centrify. OpSWAT does have integration with the major single sign-on providers like Centrify, Ping, Okta, 8 Active Directory in Azure, and any SAML-based identity provider. And we can see here that I'm presented with this screen again. I failed the policy check. So it tells me that my access is blocked, and it says there are 2 issues that need resolving. So again, for each of the issues, we have those 3 key pieces of information. What went wrong? Why does it matter? And how do I fix it? So this machine that we're looking at here is non-compliant for 2 reasons. One is that a backup has not been run recently. And the other policy violation I have is that BitLocker has not encrypted the system volume. So again, what went wrong? Why does it matter? And how do I fix it? And in some cases, there are links to knowledge base articles within the OpSWAT knowledge base that instruct the users on how to fix it if it's more than just one step. And you can also brand this page to have any content or any logos that you would like. So in this instance, I was blocked from accessing this cloud application Salesforce. And let's take a look from the management console of what this looks like. Now, obviously, the best course of action would be to have the end user remediate the actual issue. However, we do also have a capability within the management console that you can see here, and we'll take a look at that. This is the general landing page for the console, and you can see information about all of the machines that you're monitoring and all of the applications that you are controlling access to. And from here, I'm just going to type in my name, and we will drill down to my specific machine here. We can see that the status is non-compliant, and we can see some general information about my machine. Now, again, the best course of action for security reasons is always to have the user remediate the actual issue, but for purposes of the demo, we're going to show another feature, which is an exemption policy. So one of the things I can do is put a check mark next to my machine, and from the actions dropdown, I can select exempt. And we can exempt this machine from the policy for a period of time. So for 1 hour, 8 hours, 24 hours, or for an unlimited period of time. I'm going to exempt this machine for 1 hour and put in my PIN, and we see the icon change from a red X to a yellow check mark. So check mark means it's being allowed in, but the check mark is yellow, which means this machine's been exempted and it's not compliant with the policy. So now from my bookmarks bar, if I select trying to log in through Centrify again, we will see that I am actually getting logged into Salesforce, and it is, let's see here. Yep, and we're getting logged into Salesforce, and we're able to get access. So We modified the policy to exempt this particular user, but again, for best security, it would always be best to remediate, but if that's not an option, we do have the ability to exempt. And we can also revoke that exemption at any time that we would like as well. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of what it looks like from both the end user and from the administrator's perspective when we're logging into web-based SAML applications like Salesforce via Centrify, and also when we're doing virtual desktop infrastructure with VMware Horizon. So that concludes the demo portion of this, and Amir, I will pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you. So next slide, please, Laura. So basically, the compliance check that Michael just showed you is based on a lot of technology corporations and our own technology. In the core of Meta Access, there is OPSWAT Oasis technology that is embedded as OEM in many products that you may know: Cisco, VPN, AnyConnect, F5, Palo Alto, and many others. So with this technology, we scan over 100 million devices worldwide. So we got our own scoring of vulnerabilities, and we know a lot of problems that are not documented in other places. And we have also a lot of technology corporations with antivirus, anti-malware vendors. Some of them you see over here. We have over 150 corporations like this. And we basically get the signatures, we get the new versions of all these antivirus, anti-malware products. And of course, when we check the endpoint, if these products are really working, we know them very intimately. So this sums up the presentation about Meta Access. I will pass now to Russ to show the SDP. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. Thanks for everyone for attending. So I'm going to do the discussion and a quick demo of the software-defined perimeter offering from OPSWAT. I would be curious to hear how many of you, I think we have the Q&A session open like we had in others. If there's a way to ask questions, please let us know how much familiarity you have with SDP. Always curious to hear how new it is to people who are attending. So you've heard two other ways to make sure devices are secure when accessing from home before getting to applications. So, Amir and Michael together talked about the VDI sort of approach and also the SAML-based approach to make sure devices are secure. And really, this is a third way. It's software-defined perimeter can enforce and make sure that the device is secure before it accesses an application. And if I could draw your attention to the bottom right of the current slide, where you see the number 1, probably all or most of us are on a VPN working from home these days. This is the traditional solution to both giving access and hopefully providing security when doing so to applications on-premise, or maybe routing them through the on-premise up to SaaS applications to help control access. You can see on the bottom right side here that once connected through that firewall VPN, I have broad range to float between applications, and maybe, in terms of networking east-west sort of exposure, I can go and I join the whole network. I can go access just about anything I want. And if credentials are phished or I find some way to attack that firewall, I'm on the inside and roaming quite widely. Next. So with the software-defined perimeter in the picture, you can see that now the number 1's gone away and the number 2's shown up, emphasizing that with the software-defined perimeter, we would be putting in place an access gateway that would be between the client and the protected applications. So the same sets of applications can be accessed, just more securely. That access gateway is a deny-all firewall that will prevent any attacks on those applications. If you tried to probe it with Nmap or the like, it would just appear to be a firewall that was closed. There's no access that can get through it. And moreover, it's more secure in that we use something called single packet authentication to drop any malicious traffic before it could even do anything like a pre-auth attack on the VPN capabilities. Next. So here with number 3 showing up, we're pointing towards our trust broker. The access gateway is in communication with the trust broker to learn which clients or users should be allowed access to these applications. The trust broker is making these decisions based on the policy model it has that would be configured during deployment. It can interface with an existing identity access management system to get user identity and authorization information such as group membership, and then very granularly control access to the applications. The SaaS sort of offering we have, which is a cloud native solution, has its own PKI infrastructure baked into it to help with the security. And ultimately, this information that's being collected as users are interacting with the system can be shared out to third-party applications. So next, please. So here with the number 4 showing up, we see the communication from the client to the trust broker. This communication would happen when the user connects the client application that lives on the client device on the endpoint. And it will start a conversation to make sure that that client and the user behind it is indeed allowed to connect. And that's where number 5 comes in. So once the conversation with the client and the trust brokers happened and the client's been vetted, and this is using the same technology that Amir and Michael alluded to with the OPSWAT deep compliance checks, only after all of that's been vetted based on your policies would this device be able to get access to the applications. Next. So the software-defined perimeter goes beyond a VPN in the sense that it makes the applications and the network endpoints invisible. And it can protect any TCP IP sort of connection. So this includes things like traditional legacy apps like a Windows file share, for example, a connection to a printer, a legacy database connection maybe for an old-fashioned 2-tier application that might still be in use, and at the same time protect the latest modern applications as well, cloud-based applications. So it can do quite a range of protecting. And ultimately, it creates sort of a perimeter of one between the endpoint and the back-end applications, or a very like a micro segment between the endpoint and those applications. And it's doing that with mutual TLS and leveraging certificates that are pinned to our own CA authority that's embedded in the system to create tunnels that can't be hacked. Next. So another big advantage with software-defined perimeter, with the traffic going through these tunnels and controlled, you get visibility and control regardless of where the endpoint is or where the applications live. So most of the time, now, currently, the users are at home or maybe, when the virus goes away, back at the coffee shop or whatever, accessing remotely. And, traditionally it would be hard to be in line to get that visibility of what they're accessing and where they're even accessing it from. So you get consistency both in terms of the visibility and control. So the same policies can be applied whether they're on your network or remote, and whether the application's on your network or in the cloud, and also the same user experience. Next. So it's, as I mentioned, it's an alternative to a VPN. We think of, it can act as a VPN. We can open up the port ranges and the IPs widely. You'll see that when I do the demonstration. At the same time, though, it's easier to deploy and manage, built from the ground up with manageability and obviously better security in mind. Next. So here, just a quick, to drive that point home about the security, there's millions of VPN endpoints out exposed on the internet, and you can go search for them yourself and see, and they lack the mutual authentication that SDB has. They don't have the darkness in the sense that, if an SDP endpoint is on the public internet, that gateway, you wouldn't see it when you do a scan. So again, the big difference is that it checks security and authorization before that endpoint is even visible to anybody that might try to hack it. And once they're connected, unlike with a VPN where you can move east-west, with software-defined perimeter, the traffic's only going to go to the point where you're permitted to go based on policy configuration and group membership. Next. So a quick customer example, especially with regards to work from home. Recently, maybe hit next, Laura. Here in March, we had an existing NAC. We also provide NAC, network access control. So one of our existing NAC customers, in response to their campus leadership requiring students to start doing distant learning and the staff to work from home, they needed a quick solution to securely and cost effectively allow their staff and faculty to be remote. So they contacted us, and within the same day we had them up seeing how it worked and getting their first couple of users online to be able to remotely work, and over the next couple of days help them work through bringing more applications and more users on to the software-defined perimeter. Okay, so at this point I'm going to take control and my screen here and show you a quick demo. So you should be seeing the OpSWAT Safe Connect SDP screen here. Did I share this correctly? I'm going to double check. Yeah.
You see the Welcome to Safe Connect SDP screen.
Okay, great. All right, I just expected a bar around. Usually it puts a little colored bar around the window and it didn't do that. Okay, so quickly here, this is a SaaS application that, you can go register, and I invite you all to do that. It's out there at that URL. You can see here that once you do register, because I've already created an account and I'm logged in, having confirmed my email and gone through the process, you can see that there's a bit of a wizard to help you get started and understand. So the main things to understand are that, as I mentioned, you're going to be protecting applications or network resources. And you're going to be doing so by granting only certain users and groups of users access to those applications, and that's all based on policies. So in terms of defining the applications, here we have some examples. Here we're a software development shop, so we have Jira and we use it quite widely. That's one example application, and you can control which ports are open. So this particular one is exposing port 80 and 443, quite typical for, and even non-standard ports for web applications are supported. And as well, secure access to SSH endpoints or remote desktop, all very well supported. And as well, like I mentioned before, if you want to sort of open things more widely, and like for example, our developers need access to a range of ports in a lab to do some development testing. It's easy to open up a range of ports, or again, maybe a specific IP and port just for a remote desktop access. So that's the application definition. Next, the users. I've already alluded to the fact that the users and the group information can come from one of your existing identity access management solutions. So just to make the point here, we've defined a whole range of them. This is not the exhaustive list. We can support any IDP, SAML IDP that supports SAML 2.0. And of course, you can define native users within the system as well, so administrative users. So then after we define the applications and the users, the next step are the policies that are going to allow access in a controlled fashion for those users. And so here you can see that I've set up policies, for example, to allow the engineering team to access Jira. So once you have the applications and the users and the policies configured, there is the client application, as I mentioned. So you would download that client. I've already done so and installed it. And that's what you see over here on the right. And so if I didn't have the client installed and active, and just to drive the point home with the the invisibility, trying to go to an app like Jira that was blocked, it would just time out. That the endpoint would be like it's non-existent. It's completely invisible. But with the application up and open, I'm able to access it freely, and I don't have to go and use this application. This would be down in the tray, out of the way, and I would use my Windows or other operating system the same way I do on a day-to-day basis. There's no need to use this other than it gives me visibility into what my user has access to. And also, just to make the point, if I sign out and go back to sign in, you'll see that if I'm logging in with, for example, Azure AD, I would come in and I would just use that option here, and it would be the only option I would be seeing, but there's multiple happen to be configured for me. And when I do that, it would prompt me for the multi-factor authentication that's configured. So for example, that customer at the campus that we alluded to before, that was a big plus for them moving beyond their firewall VPN, was they wanted to have multi-factor authentication and the device security for the work from home. So not just checking out that the device itself was secure, but getting an additional factor of authentication, leveraging what they already had configured with Azure AD. So in summary, we've talked about the software-defined perimeter, how it makes work from home more secure beyond what a traditional VPN would by providing that level of sort of invisibility and darkness for those endpoints, and doing it all in a very easy to deploy, easy to manage fashion, leveraging existing infrastructure. It overlays on your network, no reconfiguration, easy to download, install a virtual gateway that you put into place, and within hours we can have somebody up and experiencing the benefits beyond a traditional VPN. So thank you, and at this point I'll hand things back to Laura.
Thank you, Russ. Before I take it back, I do have one question from our audience here.
Okay.
Can you change the response to something like you don't have access to this, or do you need to install the Safe Connect client?
Yeah, so there are ways we could arrange with the DNS getting piped through when you're connected to potentially show a different message when they hit that URL when they aren't connected. But in terms of security, if you really want hard security, giving up any information about what might be at that DNS name regularly might not be a great thing. So yes, but maybe something to reconsider on. It'd be interesting to discuss that with whoever asked the question a bit more offline. I'd be happy to have a deeper conversation.
Thank you, Russ, and please encourage you all. You've now seen 2 new cool applications, maybe different ways to secure your work from home environment than you have seen in the past. And we do welcome your questions on it and a chance to discuss it a little bit further. What I'd like to do now is go over some of the details, because technology can be very cool, and hopefully you've also seen it can be a positive user experience. But it does get important to understand the licensing model, the implementation, and the support. So I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes on that as well. The solutions that we discussed today both have a similar licensing model where they come in packs of 50. And so you can, however many users you need, you can just pick what number of packs you need, and we can provide that proposal. We can certainly customize proposals for you based upon your specific requirements. But they both use this simple annual subscription model with a discount for our multiple year subscriptions up to 5 years. The cool part is the implementation can be done very quickly, literally deployed in hours or days. And some of the use cases we shared with you, some of the customer examples, that's exactly the experience they had and that you could have as well. During this implementation time period, of course, you would have full access to documentation, we have videos, we have training, and you would also have access to engineering resources to help you get started. So these are not long, complicated installs, and that's vital right now. The support is 24/7 with both email and phone support and proactive monitoring of the solution, and upgrades are included with the license costs. And you could also use this for consultative type questions. What are the best way to go about this? Is for many of this, implementing this strong security in this wide, full company-wide work from home can be fairly new. But no matter how easy that I want to tell you that it is, we know that pretty much any technology solution today needs to have proper training, both for ourselves as cybersecurity professionals and also for the end users. And with that, OPSWAT announced the OPSWAT Academy toward, I think, in fourth quarter of 2019. And this has been a very successful program, and one I encourage you to check out. You can see the link here. You can find it on the home page at OPSWAT. It is basically 5 modules that show you how to protect the critical infrastructure in your environment. So first is just how does this work? What are the things that you need to consider in protecting this environment? And then it can also give specifics on how to implement the solutions that we've talked about today. So it's excellent training. We would certify you as being able, as a critical infrastructure professional. And at this time, it's no charge, so I encourage you to check it out. So in summary here, the OPSWAT advantage is giving you this total device security from anywhere to anywhere. OPSWAT's philosophy, way before it became a buzzword, has been trust no file and trust no device. And now we have the ability to provide zero trust network access as well. And so this does truly give you total device security. And this is extremely important as we shift to these work from home capabilities. And certainly for the short term, this is critical, but it's possible we may all need and want to keep these capabilities long into the future. So this here is an architectural diagram, and it shows you how Meta Access, along with STP, can manage what is today a very dynamic network perimeter. And all those vulnerabilities we talked about at the beginning of the session are addressed, as you can see here. So we do want to help. We all need to come together in this time, and OPSWAT will play our part in our area of expertise, which is security. So with this in mind, we have enabled you to receive 50 licenses of both Meta Access and SDP at no charge. And you can download these licenses at the link shown here, or you may also reach out to us at the contact link below for a consultation. Either works, and of course, I would encourage you to reach out to Pegasus to get these conversations going. The last thing that I'll say before we open it up for the Q&A is that you can see we offer many other solutions, and we call it the OPSWAT six-pack. So if we come up with any more, I'm not sure what will happen here. But we encourage you to head over to OPSWAT.com and check these other areas out as well. We did also recently have a file upload security webinar. And so if you're interested in that presentation and replay, just type that in the Q&A session, and we can send that to you along with this one. With that, let's take a look at the Q&A and see if we have any questions. And I do encourage you to please reach out and ask more. So we have one. Does the licensing allow for bursting over in a month and allow for paying the overage without increasing the annual number of licenses? And I do know for software-defined perimeter that it does allow for bursting. Like I said, we're working to get these license models aligned as closely as possible. Amir, could you answer for Meta Access? He may be on mute.
Yeah, I am now available again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we sure can. Thank you.
Okay, so the question about Meta Access about license bursting. So basically you get a license for 50 or 500, whatever you buy. Usually we sell it for a year, okay? But then let's say you need some more. You started with 500 and then you discover that you have additional 50. We can increase the license by a click of a button, so there's no problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Amir. And are there any other questions or comments at this time? Glad to go over some of this a little more or answer any details. I know that some of these solutions may be the first time you've heard of these versus a traditional VPN and antivirus approach. But as we get to the point where we really need to secure this work from home environment, we wanted to share this with you and would welcome an opportunity to talk more. All right, thank you all very much. We appreciate your joining today.
Appreciate it. And thanks, OPSWAT team. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Steve.
much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Pegasus, and thank you all. Stay safe.